Namaste. One thing I wanted to discuss was how the material creation itself is proof of God's existence. Have you ever heard anybody say that, oh, show me God, there is no God, how do we know there's a God? Well, this kind of relates to that topic of how we can perceive the evidence where there is a God. So as the Vedic literature progressively explains, the fullest understanding of God is that the absolute truth culminates in the Supreme Person, and all of creation comes from this person. And the material creation is proof of the existence of this Supreme Personality. After all, one of the questions that we can ask is, if God was merely an impersonal void or great energy or force only, how can the impersonal create that which is personal, like you and me? How can a divine energy or force, in other words, or a non-entity give birth to or create entities? How can that without a personality create the innumerable beings that have personalities and characteristics and so many idiosyncrasies? So if God was merely a non-entity or without activities, there would be no need for him to create his separated parts and parcels with whom he could have relationships or loving exchanges, especially as in his form of Lord Krishna and his devotees. So actually there would be no need of beings of any kind, in which case there would be no need for a cosmic creation to allow the materially inclined living beings to engage in material relationships and activities. We need to remember that one of the purposes of this creation is to allow the materially conditioned souls the freedom to express their individuality. If this individuality was not an intrinsic aspect of our nature, why would we have the propensity for self-expression or the need to chase after so many desires? And without it, once again, there would also be no need for a material manifestation at all. In other words, if the ultimate reality was but a void or great white light or Brahman only, in which there is no activity, what need would there be for a cosmic creation in which the living beings are allowed to express so many desires and activities? To explain further, it is said that variety is the spice of life, and that particular spice or enjoyment is found only in activities. Varieties of activity is the fun of life. Furthermore, activity is generally based on relationships of various kinds, most often with others. If we were all one or all merged into a void, there could be no relationships nor desires for such. Without individuality, there is no need for relationships or activity or loving exchanges, nor any variety or fun in this case. So in such a case, the Lord would be inactive in a spiritual world that offered no variegatedness. There would also be no need for a material creation where so many relationships take place, or where the conditioned souls can chase after their own particular material desires. Actually, there would be no need for anything at all. However, we can plainly see all around us that such is not the case. There are innumerable living beings in many varieties of species, all determinedly engaged for self-preservation and expression and the fulfillment of so many desires, and sometimes so desperately at any cost. Therefore, the material creation is proof of the existence of God. It is proof of the personal form of the Supreme Being and the nature of his parts and parcels to long for and engage in a variety of activities and loving relationships, the highest of which is to engage in spiritual loving relations with the Supreme Lord. This is our natural constitutional position as spiritual beings, for which we have been brought into existence. This is the eternal nature of the soul and our real identity. That is why nothing will ever change our natural inclination toward varieties of activities, individual self-expression, and the need to love and be loved. It is, after all, but a reflection of the spiritual world, the home of which all of these activities and inclinations emanate from. So, a little food for thought. Thank you very much. Namaste and Jai Shri Krishna.